When MK was a 15-year-old in 2006, the Prince Edward County Children's Aid Society placed her in a foster home run by a young couple, Joe and Janet Home. MK, whose identity is under a publication ban, remembers what happened when one of two other teenage girls in the home complained to Children's Aid about Joe Home's sexually inappropriate behavior.
They had asked us if that had actually happened, and we said yes. We witnessed this happening, and he was told not to do it again. And it was left at that. So when the behavior began to progress with me, I almost kind of felt in a sense that this was normal.
Over the next 3 years, Joe sexually abused MK. Janet covered it up.
We were actually even told by my foster mother that my foster father was not to be present when they would do the annual visits. And that was actually a suggestion from people who worked at Children's Aid. Because he was not necessarily able to cover up his behavior.
The Holmes pleaded guilty in 2011 to a number of sexual abuse offenses against MK and other children in their care. A judge sentenced him to 4 years in prison, her to 3. But theirs wasn't the only case. Another 4 Prince Edward County foster parents were convicted of sexually abusing their foster children. So many convictions in such a small jurisdiction led the government to launch a review of the county's Children's Aid Society. It found a poorly run, dysfunctional CAS rife with infighting that interfered with planning and placement of children. Appropriate screening and assessment requirements for foster homes were often not met, and the CAS had no clear and cohesive response to allegations of sexual abuse. Now, 6 years later, the Society's former executive director is facing criminal negligence charges for running a CAS that ended up fostering children with abusers. William Sweet declined to comment when CBC knocked on his door in Picton, Ontario.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not interested in speaking.
Oh, you sure? I just wanted to ask you about the charges. The Prince Edward County CAS was merged 6 years ago into a larger regional society headed by Mark Cartouche.
Making sure that we followed the right processes for approvals of homes, and then the oversight and how we work together with homes. We did some staff training, and we helped enhance some of the management training.
MK says she and the other abused former foster children will follow Sweet's trial closely.
I hope that this is an eye-opener for them for sure, and I hope that the agencies can be mindful of the people that they are allowing to be foster parents.
Sweet will be back in court next month. Ron Charles, CBC News, Picton, Ontario.
Now, the issue of child protection was also top of mind in Alberta today, with a call for the province to do more to battle opioid addiction among young people.
We're calling in our report for that substance use education to be embedded in the school curriculum, and for it to take place both in elementary and into the high school grades.
The plea for a youth-specific drug strategy comes from Alberta's child and youth advocate. It follows his review of 12 deaths, tragic stories of teens who died from opioid overdoses over a 2-year period while wrestling with family breakdown, crime, and other issues.
Harm reduction can open the door to a relationship, and that can lead to positive influence towards healthier behavior.
Among the other recommendations, more training for frontline workers who deal with children to recognize signs of addiction and intervene early, with an added focus on young people with mental health or cognitive problems. Also, a mention that family and close friends should play a role in treatment. The government says it's reviewing those recommendations.
Do you guys remember the Turpin family, the 13 siblings who were rescued from their parents' house of horrors back in 2018? Once rescued, the younger children were placed into foster care where we thought they would start their new lives. And boy, were we wrong. The attorney for these children are saying that life in foster care is worse than life with their parents who beat them, starved them, and tied them up. The youngest 6 Turpins were placed in the home of Marcelino and Rosa Olguin. And once the media stopped following them, these 2 monsters started sexually, verbally, and physically abusing these children. The kids were repeatedly told things like, your parents were right, you are a nobody, and you're nobody, you're a Turpin. 64-year-old Marcelino Olguin was arrested and charged with multiple counts, including committing a lewd act on a child under the age of 14, false imprisonment, and inflicting injury on a child. Rosa Olguin and her adult daughter Lenny, who also lived in the house, were arrested and charged with willful child cruelty, false imprisonment, and inflicting injury on a child.
I remember one time when I was like 7, right? My mom had decided that she wanted to go back to stripping. And it got crazy, you know, to the point to where I ended up in a foster home. This lady was the coolest lady in the world. Made you feel like you was at home, you know. So I thought. Hey, one time, now this happened every time she would have company come over, right? This one time she made us go find a glass bottle. We take it outside and we break it till it's into little bitty pieces, right? And then we sweep it into like 2 piles. And you got to take your shoes and your socks off, and you got to stand on it barefoot. Now, sometimes it might be scorching hot. Sometimes it might be raining. Sometimes it might be freezing. I remember one time it was freezing and we had to go out there in shorts. And in this one particular time, she made us stand on the glass. Hey, we stood on that glass for like 3 hours. One time, she forgot about us. But this particular time, I don't know why, she made us soak our feet in boiling hot water. Like fresh off of stepping on the glass standing on glass for the last 3 hours. You talking about screaming and hollering and oh my gosh, man. And then we had to go clean our feet. You know, she pouring alcohol all on our feet, and you know, I think they're called Brillo pads or something like that. And we had to clean our feet with those. Like, she was just real harsh to us. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember one time we ate cereal with no milk for like 2 weeks. Mind you, this lady got roaches. I mean, she was just like, it was just crazy. And then when the people would come and check on us, you would swear up and down she was Mary Poppins. I remember the one kid that was there with me, she had like 3 other kids. She used to hang him by his feet. She used to hang him by his feet and whoop him. Whoop him for like 5-10 minutes, just whooping him for no reason. Just because, it could be because, you know, the wind blew. She used to, sometimes when we used to stand out there on the glass, she used to have this little piece of wood with a nail at the end. And she used to pop us in our feet when we move.
One of my adoptive parents' form of punishment for me was to take photos from before I had been placed with them. So photos of me with other foster families that I had lived with, or photos of my biological siblings or my mother or my father, and essentially rip them up and destroy them. When I went to live with them at the age of 8 years old, I had a stack of pictures this thick. I don't have a single one of those pictures anymore. They destroyed every single one of them. And it wasn't until I was telling someone about it and they gave me like the shocked Pikachu face and explained to me that that is psychological abuse that I even realized that it was wrong. Because that is psychological abuse. You're ripping away this child's identity and you're destroying it right in front of them. You're taking their memories away from them. And no matter what a child has done, because every child gets in trouble, that is not an acceptable form of punishment by any way, shape, or form whatsoever. If it wasn't for the photographs that I have been sent by my biological family since finding them back in April, I wouldn't have any idea what I looked like as a kid. Or a baby. No freaking clue.
Being taken from place to place and being sent to a whole new different city and a whole new different family and people that you've never met before,
It's a really confusing experience. You just feel torn away from your community. It's like, just imagine that you were going to work one day and it's just a normal day and you're on your way to work and everything is as it's supposed to be, and you watered your dog and you drank your coffee and you tell your kids goodbye and you go to work, and then the police show up at your job and they say, okay, we're moving you to a totally different city and you don't know anybody and you can't call your family and you can't call any of your friends and you need to leave your phone here and you can't take any of your stuff with you. We'll figure that out later. And they just pick you up and they transport you to a totally different place and then tell you to just wait in this room for a little while because we're going to figure things out. And then they come and bring you a little sack luncheon, and it's, oh, just a few more hours and we're going to figure this out. Just here, play with this little toy, okay, put this little ring on a hook. And then they send you to these really well-meaning people but you have no idea who they are, and their house smells different, and maybe they have a dog, and they have hardwood floors, you've only ever had carpet. Like, everything about the experience is alien to you. And all you want is to be able to contact the people that you have a bond with. It's a very disrupting experience. And in a lot of ways, it's a traumatic experience because all of these things are unexpected, and suddenly everything in your world that you felt was safe and secure and concrete is not. And having those ideas shattered is really difficult, especially as a child, because you need that security. You need to know that here's my bed, I can come home to it, and this is where it's going to be, and that's going to be okay. Or here's my mom, and no matter what, she's going to be there for me, and I can just call her and she'll show up, and that's going to be okay. When you can't believe that anymore, it starts to make you question, well, what can you believe? Who can you trust? What is a for sure thing? You begin to stop valuing certain things. You stop valuing relationships because they're not concrete and they're not going to be there forever. And you stop investing yourself in certain things. And all of a sudden, stability isn't really important to you. Having goals isn't important to you. You are concerned with, where are you going to sleep tonight? Are you going to be safe? Who are these people? Doing a simple thing like taking a shower in a stranger's home is a very disconcerting experience. So the more that you get moved around, the more trauma that you endure in that. Every single move is a traumatic experience. So you can see the consequences later on. And really you can see the consequences pretty early on. As a child who's in foster care, I exhibited signs of not being able to trust other people, of not wanting to connect. I had some really antisocial behavior. I also had a deep dislike for government agencies, for the police, for social workers. Like, I did not believe that they were on my team, because when I'm telling you that this is what I need and you're just not listening and you're saying, well, this is what we feel you need, I can't trust you any longer. As a child, you do not have the capacity to forward think. You are not able to, and scientifically your brain isn't even wired to do that yet. And so the decisions that you're making are pure emotional. When you're dealing with a traumatic situation and when the people around you don't have the tools to help you deal with that, the decisions that you're making are pure instinctive. And so I just know that if I have this incredible amount of sadness and this incredible amount of fear and I don't know what to do with it, well, maybe I should just run away. Maybe I should do drugs. Maybe I should get in fights. Maybe I should cuss out my foster parents. There's all kinds of different things that happen. None of those things were planned. All of those things were unintended consequences because I didn't know how to deal with the original emotions that I was facing. And so I really just want people to understand that these kids just need help. I don't understand how there's so much funding for foster care benefits, for adoption benefits, for emergency shelters. There's so much funding for that, but there's no funding for family preservation. And had my mom just had a little bit of help, had she have had enough money to buy her own vehicle, had she had enough money to relocate herself from an abusive situation, had she not had to depend on men in the first place for any kind of financial stability, I don't believe that she would have made some of the decisions that she would have made. I don't believe that she would have struggled as a mother, because my mom is a good mom. She just had some hardships and she had nobody to help her. And so I don't understand how there's so much funding to take us away, but there's no funding to keep us there.
If you are in a domestic violent relationship, be careful, because CPS can remove your children based on child endangerment. So the first child I got through CPS was a 3-month-old baby boy. He had been removed from his parents' custody because they had been violently fighting, and the mother was still in the hospital recuperating from the father mazing her with a broom. CPS told the mother, "You can have your child back when you complete these things. Pass the drug test, complete parenting classes, stay away from the boyfriend, move in with your mother so you'll have a stable place to live." She completed all of those things, so they take her baby back to her. After a few days, they bring the baby back to me and said that she's back in the hospital because her boyfriend has beaten her again. Now, when this would happen, DSS was still giving them weekly visitations to see their child. The only reason the father was still getting visits with his child is because he had not been convicted and the mother kept dropping the charges. Back in those days, they would have us all wait in the same waiting room, and the families would give us the worst stink eye. So some of these families would be really hateful in these waiting rooms, and we would have to learn how to just keep our mouth shut and not communicate at all. Now, CPS sent the baby home with her and her mother that day. 2 weeks later, they're bringing the baby right back to me because he's beat her again, but this time she was holding the child during the beating, and CPS found out they got married. This time CPS tells me we're going to adopt the baby out, so he's going to be here for a few weeks. As soon as we get him a suitable family, he'll be leaving. During the few weeks that he was at my house, they were calling me because they thought that I was the one adopting him. And I would tell them, "No, I'm just the caregiver. I'm not adopting this child. Stop contacting me." Well, finally, CPS comes and gets the baby, and they take him to his new family. 2 months later, he has beat her so bad that he's knocked all of her front teeth out, broken her nose, her eye socket, some other things, and she leaves him for good. She moves back in with her mother and starts trying to get her child back. By then it's too late. He's already gone. He's in the process of being adopted. The reason I share my experiences is so nobody else has to go through them. So y'all understand what can happen to you and your loved ones. Because when it's too late, it's too late. And one wrong hit could have took her life, or even the child's life. If you are in this type of situation, choose your child. Because once they're adopted out, that's too late. You can't contact them anymore. Usually you can't even find them unless the child comes looking for you, or if the adopted family allows them to try to find you, or until they're 18. It's too late at that point.
Surviving Michigan's Foster Care System, Part 1. So I was born in 1990, and in 93, one of my brothers brought abuse and neglect allegations against my mom, so that would have made me 3 years old at the time. Along with myself, there were 6 other boys that my mom had. 2 of them was in foster care in another state, and the other ones was separated here in Michigan. In my mom's care at the time was the brother that brought the allegations against her, myself, and I had a younger brother, which is deceased now. The brother that brought the allegations against my mom had to have been around about 9 or 10 at this point. With having priors and other incidents, they, meaning the state of Michigan, Wayne County, saw fit to take us. So when we was taken, they sent us